Hi, folks. Welcome back to the Creative People Show. I'm Stephen Brown, your host, and I want to welcome a friend of mine, Renee Michaels, who is an actor, a writer, a director, producer. We've had a lot of people in the entertainment industry on these shows, but that's not limited to those fields. So, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming on. You have done a lot of things. We first met. Maybe it was the first time we met. Yeah, I think it was the first time we met doing a murder mystery show.
Actually, no.
No.
The first time we met was when you were in.
Taneycomo?
Yes.
Oh, that was before that.
Yeah, I was working behind. Well, I had a small role, but I was like just hanging out.
Yeah.
While you were doing your scene. So that's actually the first time we met.
Yeah, Taneycomo. You have a series called Haven.
Haven.
Yeah. Talk about that a little bit.
Sure. So, well, right now Haven we just have season 1, and it's 8 episodes. It's streaming on a few different platforms. So we have it on Creative Motion Network, 24 Flicks, and then BTV, which are all available on your Roku player. But it's about a young girl who is on the run. It's almost feels a little prophetic considering what the climate that we live in now.
Oh, really?
They're on the run from a controlling government. So it's got a very post-apocalyptic feel. So these people who will not conform to what the government is telling them to do, they're on the run, and so they call themselves the Remnant. And there's different factions of Remnant around the world, and their ultimate goal is to meet in a place called Haven, where the government has no control. And so this particular group of Remnant is there's a little girl who's in it, who's realizing that God has got bigger plans for her, and he's revealing himself to her in some ways where she's learning about spiritual warfare and how much, I hate to use the word like power he's giving her, I don't want to say that, but he's equipping her to fight these spiritual battles that she's being placed in. And so he's kind of raising her up to eventually be the leader of this Remnant and leading them into Haven. So that's the whole premise of the entire series.
Yeah.
Now, if we ever get any more, then we'll get to see all that come to fruition. But right now we just have season 1, and unfortunately, you know, my lead, she moved to Vegas, and so a lot of people have moved on because it's been a while. Now, her dad did say that if we were able to do it, and they'd come back, so for her to be able to film. So, but she's also grown a lot since.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's the hard part about filming long series. If you have a break in between the series, people change. But of course, they know time passes. You know.
Sure, except the second season was supposed to be like
start up
right
after.
right where we left
them.
So I'd have to like rewrite the whole idea. But we did win some awards,
yes.
So that was exciting. On Creative Motion Network, they have their own awards, and so we won Best Dramatic Series. Our lead, she won Best Young Actor, and then we won, or we got second place in basically the equivalent of like an audience choice.
Yeah. Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Very good. And you're a unique.
I've heard that before.
As a well.
In a lot of
for
sometimes
more than one
not
reason.
so good ways.
But you're not like my wife and a lot of people of the female persuasion who are put off by snakes and lizards and things like that.
That is true.
My wife will not go near a snake. She's scared by frogs.
Oh no.
But you have them as pets. You have.
I do.
Several snakes.
You know, it's funny. I've always loved reptiles, even growing up. Snakes were not necessarily my favorite. One, because I just was not educated on them.
Yeah.
But I got my first gateway snake, as I like to call it, a few years ago, and it was it's a corn snake, very docile. It's a really good first snake, and after that, I was hooked. I'm like, these are awesome, and so I've kind of, you know, increased my collection, and we have 8 snakes, and we've got some lizards and some other little creepy things that people wouldn't normally like to touch. So
yeah. You say you have a scorpion.
Well, I have a tailless whip scorpion.
Tailless whip.
Yeah, so they're not scorpions.
Okay.
And they're not spiders, though they look like they're a cross between the two.
Oh, really? Wow.
And so so they're usually cave dwellers, and they're
like
creepy. I don't know how many of your viewers have seen any of the Harry Potter movies, and I could not tell you which one it is because I didn't watch it either. I was just told this, but it comes from, or it doesn't come from it. They used this animal in one of their scenes. So a lot of people are familiar with the tailless whip scorpion because of that movie.
Yeah. So it looks weird.
Yes, it's a creepy looking thing, but it's awesome.
And you have mice too.
I do. We have African spiny mice, and so they're not food for the snakes. Because I don't do that. Because I like rodents, and I used to have rats too that were pets. I just can't feed them live to my snakes, and so we do frozen for them. But yeah, the little African spiny mice, and they're so cute. We have way too many, so you know, they need to find new homes.
Oh, okay. You make, or you did. You said you made some jewelry, clay sculptures of clay figurines of the snakes and reptiles.
Yeah, just like for like necklaces and things, and I enjoyed doing that. It was another creative outlet because I like to experiment in other, what do you want to call it, like mediums of art. And so I really enjoyed doing the clay jewelry pieces. I also did magnets as well, but just polymer clay made like ball pythons, and that was always fun. And I wish I could, maybe sometime I'll be able to do it, pick it back up again. But it's very relaxing, so I enjoy that as an outlet. I prefer film stuff though.
Yeah. Speaking of film, I wanted to go back and ask you what was your first role in film, or what first got you interested in acting in general? It doesn't have to be. It could be theater. It could be.
So my first experience as an actor was like in 3rd grade maybe, and I was in a little play that we did. I don't even know. I want to say I was supposed to be like Raggedy Ann, but I don't think that's right. I think somebody else was Raggedy Ann and I was like the tree. I honestly don't remember, but that was kind of like my first taste of it. And then I always did church drama, and you know, was doing school drama. I took drama in school, musicals, but as far as being on film, I wanted to go to Hollywood, and of course that never happened because I ended up having kids, getting married, having kids, and so that kind of put the brakes on that idea. So I thought, if I can't go there, I'll bring it to me. And so I found some mentors in Oklahoma that kind of, like, they had acting courses and filmmaking courses, so I've always been interested in it and trying to find out more about how to make my own projects. And so then a friend of mine and I, we did a short film called Edges, which is horrible, but you have to start somewhere. Yes, but at the time I thought it was great. And was very disappointed that it wasn't more well received. I know why now, but at the time I'm like, this is great. Like, this is like, you know, Oscar-worthy performances, and yeah, it really wasn't. But it was still a good experience to learn from. And then from there, I just started working on. Well, I've always written stuff. So as a kid, I was writing like stories and trying to write books, and I would be inspired by other movies and try to like do what they would call fan fiction now. But of course, I don't think they called it back then fan fiction. But it was basically the same idea. And so I was just always looking at ways that I could bring all of that into movie or film or you know, anything like that. And so Edges was the first, and then we did a few years later. I had a friend who wrote a novel. Now, she'll tell you this story differently. We remember it differently. But she wrote a novel called The Death of Kevin Fry. And at church one day, she's like, you know, she goes, oh, you're a filmmaker. I have a novel and that you should read. And so, of course, I've had, when you hear that, when somebody hears you're a filmmaker and you have that happen, you're like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's like
I'll read the novel.
It's like when someone has a poem and they want you to put it to music.
Yes.
It's not a one-to-one translation. You can't just take a novel and make it into a movie like it is. You have to work it.
Right, exactly. But she'll tell you it's completely different. I don't remember her version of the story, but it's different from mine. That's my version of how it came to be. So she gave me the novel, and I had it on my nightstand for a very long time. And I was like, I don't want to read it. And then finally I read it, and I was like, oh, this is actually pretty good. And I was like, but I don't know how to adapt it to a screenplay. I don't know what to do. And again, I sat on it for a while. I was sitting in the Walmart parking lot. I will remember this forever, because I was sitting in the parking lot at Walmart, and the song "Who Am I" by Casting Crowns came on. From the very first note of that song, I saw the last scene in the movie. It was just like as if God was saying, "You're going to do this movie." I saw it happen. And so I was like, that like put a fire in me, and I'm like, I have to do this. So we have to make the screenplay. We have to write the screenplay. We have to shoot this film. And so when we finally got to shoot, it was a wedding scene. We finally got to that wedding scene. Like I still remembered what I was seeing when I heard that song. And pretty much that scene is exactly the vision that God gave me when he told me, when he let me know that this is what we were supposed to be doing.
What's the name of the film?
The Death of Kevin Fry.
The Death of Kevin
Yeah,
Fry.
and it is a faith-based film, yeah. I don't think that I don't know if she put it online or not. I didn't put it on YouTube or anything, but but the writer that wrote the novel, she might have. I can't remember. I'll have to look.
Okay.
But yeah, and again, it's not perfect, but again, it was one of those learning experiences.
You go in steps and stages, and you learn more each time you're involved in a project.
Yes.
So what was your first professional project that you actually got paid for?
Oh, well, okay. So that would be like commercial work.
Yeah.
So I did a lot of commercials, a lot of car commercials in the Tulsa area.
I think I've seen you. What's been your favorite role that you've done as an actor?
So this is going to sound weird, I'm sure. But as far as, so far, my favorite role was playing a vampire.
Oh, yeah?
Yes. Just because it's so different.
Yeah.
But that was probably my most fun role. But I really have liked pretty much everything that I've played. I would say the one that I related to the most, that I enjoyed it a lot because it was very therapeutic, was in Pruning the Family Tree. Just because of the where I was, circumstances in my personal life were kind of had some similarities to what my character was going through emotionally, and so that really helped, and I just really felt like I connected with that role, so I really enjoyed that.
What year was that?
Do you remember what year that was? 2012.
Okay.
It was in 2012.
Not very long ago.
No, not that long ago. So yeah, that one was probably, and I actually won an award for that. I won Best Actress in a Feature Film. For that role, so it must have done something. But but as far as I like fantasy roles, I like I would love to be in a period film, like a Western. I love Westerns, and obviously playing a vampire is a fantasy role. But anything.
Your snakes on.
Did not then. But I didn't have snakes then.
Oh, okay.
I would love to do like a sci-fi thing, like space, Star Trek, Star Wars kind of stuff.
Sci-fi too.
Yeah, so I like that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I had Debbie Sutcliffe on yesterday. You know her.
Yeah.
And she said kind of the same thing. She likes westerns, but she's also a superhero Marvel fan and sci-fi, but which is unusual.
Yeah.
What are you working on right now? What's your main thing that you're doing?
Right now I'm focused on, we've got another series in development called Minding the Family. It's a sitcom. It's kind of a cross between like a Gilmore Girls and, what was the other one? We were talking about it a couple weeks ago. My inspiration is Gilmore Girls, but I've got another couple of people who are also on the writing team, and their inspiration, because they're not familiar with Gilmore Girls, was something else. But it was like a cross between these two things. And so it's kind of got the quirkiness of some of those shows now where the townspeople are weird, and so it's basically a story about a single mom. She's got two teenagers, and she moves back to her hometown to open a practice. She's a psychologist.
Oh, okay.
So that lends itself to a lot of interesting things when you've got a town full of weirdos.
Yeah.
So she gets reconnected with some of her high school friends, and and her kids are like from the big city, and what is this place? That typical thing. But it is going to be faith-based, so we're going to have a lot of biblical truth woven in throughout. So we're hoping that we can get that on one of the streaming services.
Are you playing the lead?
I am playing the lead.
Oh.
Yes.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Who else is going to be in that? Do you know? Or can you say?
Yes, I can say. So Rusty Reagan.
Yeah.
He's going to play my brother. And then Shannon Thomason, who he's in a show in Branson. He's a comedian. He plays the mayor of the town.
Okay.
And so beyond that, we're still trying to develop the characters and see who else we're going to need. But those are the three characters that we know, other than the kids, which we haven't really decided on who's going to play the kids yet. We've kind of those characters are pretty solid.
Okay. Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about how you develop a character.
Obviously, you've got to know your backstory. So when I'm writing a character, I have to figure out their history, where they came from, what makes them tick.
Yeah.
And it's the same when you're playing a role. You want to kind of go as far as you can. And the nice thing about being an actor, though, is if you have access to the script, you get a better idea of who this person is.
Right.
But when you're writing it, you're making it all up. So I have to do a lot of research.
A lot of people don't realize this. As an actor, you have to be creative in your approach to the character. You don't just read what the writer has written and do what the director says. It has to be something in your mind that you can relate to. You go by what the director says, of course, but there's a whole lot more to it than that. You have to have that backstory in your mind, whether it's written down or not, and decide, okay, who is this guy? What is he like? What would he do in this situation? How would he react? Because that's not all written out for you necessarily. It has to, and it needs to be natural, I think, in my opinion. Some actors go way over the top. Now, there's a difference between theater acting, which you've done, and film acting, which you've done. You know that difference. Theater acting can be much bigger and more bolder choices, and film and TV, depending on the genre and the venue, can be somewhat like that in the comedies, some of the comedies, but you bring it down a lot more on film in front of camera.
Well, and I always say, like, when you're in theater, though you don't want to be doing this, when you're on stage, you could totally be thinking about your grocery list, and nobody would ever know.
Yeah.
But when you're on camera, they know, because it's in the eyes.
Facial expressions.
Yeah, because the camera's right there, and so you have to be focused the whole time. You should always be focused. Don't ever, even when you're on stage, focus, be in the moment. But you could, if your mind wanders, you get a little bit of grace in that, more so than you would if you're on camera.
In the show I'm in, down in Branson, it's a very small theater, so it's kind of in between that. Our facial expressions can play to the fifth row, which is the back row. If they're good, if they have good eyesight, they can look at our expressions and see what we're doing, and say. So the slightest movement can be distracting.
Yes.
If we don't want to distract from the main character giving their monologue, we have to be relatively still. Small.
Right.
Small motions and things like that. But there are certain comedy bits. It's a comedy, a musical comedy. What advice would you give to up-and-coming writers, actors, producers, directors, whatever, or people in the entertainment industry in general? Because you've done musicals, you've done dramas, you've done film, TV, commercials, the whole lot, and so you got a wide spectrum of understanding of the industry. So what would you advise them?
Oh gosh, so this is a question that I feel like many creatives, really just anybody, I would think, kind of dreads, because everybody's different.
Yeah.
And the canned answer is always, well, if it's you follow your dream, if it's your passion, then you just work hard. But I don't think that that's true.
That's why I ask this of almost all my guests, because I get a different answer. Sometimes it's similar.
You have to have the work. I mean, that's a given. You can't just expect something to fall in your lap. But the way I look at it is, if you're trying to decide in your life and be happy, then do it. Because if you think there's a chance that, hey, I might be interested in doing this too. That sounds interesting. Then do that. Because you have to be all in. It can't be, it's almost like you have to be a little obsessive about your choice, your career choice, because you have to be all in no matter what it is. And so really, I would just say, make sure that it's not a passing thing, because you're going to be super disappointed, especially in this industry, in the entertainment industry, because there's a lot of disappointments, and there's a lot of working really hard for something and then not getting the role, or not being happy with your performance, or there's just a lot of disappointment in it. So you have to understand that if this is really what you want to do, then you just got to make sure it's what you're supposed to be doing. And you can tell that if you can't imagine doing anything else.
In the acting training that I've gone through, a lot of them would tell me nervousness is a natural thing. And if you can turn that around and use that nervous energy to your audition or whatever, then use it. That will keep you from obsessing on that. But also, you mentioned auditions. I think you did. Or in my head, something said auditions.
I may have said something. I don't remember. I've said a lot of words.
And when you're going to an audition, you can't think of that audition as, okay, this is my big break. I'm going to make it, and they're going to choose me. When I go to an audition, I try to do this. I don't always do it, but I try to do the audition, do the best I can, thank them, and leave it behind, and kind of forget about it, and move on to the next audition, the next thing, because you may never hear from them again, but they may contact you. But if you obsess on, why aren't they calling me? Why aren't they emailing me? You can drive yourself crazy. Because there could be 1,000 different reasons why they didn't want you for that particular role. It's not your fault necessarily. It's looks and skin tone and height, weight, age, whatever.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different factors involved.
It has nothing to do, doesn't necessarily have anything to do with you not being talented.
Right.
It's just that for whatever reason, you didn't have the right look, your hair was the wrong color, or, you were too short, too tall. So there's a lot of reasons, for sure.
Yeah.
But it's easy to get worked up and worry about those things and think that you're failing when it may not have anything to do with your talent, your gifts, or anything. One of the best things that I heard, and I'm speaking as a follower of Jesus, I take my acting coach is T.C. Stallings. I don't know if you know who he is.
Oh, yeah.
So one of the things that he said...
He's a fellow AMTC grad like I am.
Yeah, he's awesome. And he has a course called the Uncompromised Christian Actors. And so one of the things that he said, when you are auditioning, when you go in for an audition, obviously you prepare, you do the very best you can, you pray about it. If you are supposed to have that role, there is nothing in this world that is going to stop it. If God wants you in that role, you can do nothing other than failing to show up that will keep you from having that role. And so he's like, take that stress off of yourself. Just go and you do your best, and it doesn't matter. If God wants you to have that role, you will have it. It's yours. But if you don't, that just means that God has something else for you. And so that has been very, very helpful. Every time I go into an audition and I don't get cast, I'm like, well, that just wasn't where God wanted me. And that's easy to say, and it sounds flippant, but for some reason when he said that like triggered something. And I was like, that is absolutely right. I don't need to obsess about the fact that I didn't get a role. It just wasn't where God wanted me to be.
Right.
And sometimes it just takes a little bit for that to internalize that and not just, say it in a way like it just sounds good. It's good Christian language, but it actually means something, and that's very, very true.
And don't obsess over things. Well, I'm an old, fat, balding man, and you wouldn't think that casting directors would even want to take a second look at me, but I just booked my 51st role, and I get sometimes 2, 3, 4, 5, well, more than that, from the different Actors Access and casting networks and Backstage and all those that fit my profile. A day seems like. So, of course, a lot of them I can't commit to because I'm working during that time or whatever. Like our previous guest said, a lot of working actors have a regular job too, a day job, and to support them. To support their acting habit.
Right.
But my goal, and I know I'm kind of old to be saying this, but my goal is to be a full-time working in entertainment, I should say, because I do music and I do solo music. I have a band. I work in musical theater, which is a combination of my 3 favorite things: acting, singing, and playing music at the same time. So to be able to do that full time and be supported by that, that would be great. But
It would
for
be.
the moment, I still have to have that day job to pay the bills.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think a lot of us are like that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I want to thank you, Renee, for coming in
Thank
and
you.
talking with us.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you talking
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
sharing your heart with us.